Hello?
Good morning.
I was going to say that, but I'm not a morning person, as I was just saying before. But for all of you, I will improvise being a morning person. So, good morning. Big smile. Wanted to start off with maybe the first question you get asked in a lot of these classes. Who here improvises? Who here doesn't? Okay. Do you mind if I ask why for some of you who don't improvise?
Here.
Okay. Do you mind if I ask why you're scared?
We're all classically trained. We're afraid of making mistakes.
That is the answer I expected. Any other? Yeah. Not written.
Oh, exactly.
Not written down. It's a similar answer, but they come from different places. Yeah, okay. I've had other people tell me they had bad experiences in the school, like with teachers who maybe didn't take the right approach. Like they'd be in a class and then they'd just be told, to improvise, and you do not embarrass young kids that way. These are high kids, high school. That's not the right approach, right? I mean, you need to come from a place of safety to start
Adults
anything.
too.
What's that?
Adults too.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So, you were actually improvising before, when you were warming up. Well, let me ask another question before I explain something. Anyone like poetry? Who's your favorite poet?
Well, I've been writing poetry and I actually enjoy writing. But I love poetry.
Wonderful. We don't have a lot of time today, so I won't go into all the great poems and all. Who has pets? Okay. Dog, cat, what?
Dog.
What kind of dog?
Shorties.
Okay. If your dog could be any other color than a color dogs come in, what would that color be? Any? Great. That's wonderful. Ice cream. Anyone here like ice cream? Any two people sitting next to each other like ice cream? Okay. Have a 30-second talk about ice cream. 15-second talk.
It's delicious and refreshing.
Not just
Oh, I like the cashew roll.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Okay. You all just improvise. Every time you have a conversation, you improvise. You did that without any fear. You did that without any hesitation. And you did that without difficulty, because you've been doing that all your lives. Now think about it. Most of you have been playing music all your lives, too. You should not have that fear. And improvising, I think, in this country, maybe a lot of countries, I'm not sure, but you probably hear improvising and you think jazz. And you think chord changes. Is that the first thing that comes to some people's minds? Some people, not everyone. Okay. If it's not jazz, what is it about improvising? The what? Okay.
Can you repeat the answer? Because I can't hear the answer.
Ground bass? A little more. Yes, yeah, okay. So, yes, more so than these days, there was a tradition in classical music that involves more improvising, and not just in cadences.
Country dance music, where you're playing a tune 16 to 20 times. Well, number 3 and 4 you started.
Yeah, okay, very good. You have just stepped out of my comfort level, which is fine. I don't play country music, so I have something to learn there. Just to wrap up the introduction bit, the point I think you all got is this workshop and the last one we did at NFA, and one you do with Shu, your husband, and workshop you've done, and if any of you attended Andrew's workshop. It all comes from take that deep breath, right? Be comfortable, let go of that fear, right? And listen, hopefully not to that. Unless you want to play that note. I don't know. We'll improvise on that later in the show. That was really, the big point. Now, the other connection I want to make is, anyone here today whose native language is not English? Hi? No.
Spanish? My language is Spanish.
Okay. Do you speak Spanish? Okay. You two have a conversation in Spanish. Okay. You can't really have much of a conversation, but you two can communicate with your instruments. No problem. We all have that in common around the world. That's without any thought as well. You're comfortable if the music is stuck in front of you? Stop. If it's put in front of you, no problem. Now, I assume all of you know your scales. If you know your scales, you know your modes. We don't have to get into the difficulty of maybe the terminology of the modes. Almost all music around the world started long ago in various traditions on a pentatonic scale. So if we're going to talk, as I'm going to do in a second, with a very simple start, and then they're going to Haruna Fukazawa and Daniel Pardo, and I'm Robert Rabinowitz. I might have done that at the beginning, but we're going to do some different exercises, and that's where you get to play, and it will should be fun for everyone. I hope. So, if I'm just playing a note, and we're going to start with an improvisation you all know, we're going to tune. Ready? We good? That was an A. That's the fifth of the D major scale, or the D minor scale, if you'd like it to be that scale. If you're playing pentatonically, that you would be looking at a scale that would be, D, F, G, H, C, D. Did I get something? No. My went, but, did you all play a D? D. Now, bring the volume down just a little. We're going to do some Just set D, ready? Hold that D.
Hold that D. No, it starts in A. It starts in A. It's in D. Good.
It's Haruna's birthday.
Thank you.
She was as surprised as all of us.
Okay, we done? Yeah, and beer and a wine for to celebrate.
Yeah, we had to surprise her somehow. How am I on time? We'll have another minute or two?
You have 4 minutes, so we can do the minute the jam or the jam.
Yeah, let's do that.
So you go.
So we are just going to do a free improvisation, the three of us, and then they'll take over. So for a couple of minutes, we're just going to play.
3 minutes.
We'll start from where you guys started. everything might have been wonderful, but there were moments where I felt like, wow, that was really cool. And then there were moments where we were searching to come together. And the more you do it, and the more you play with people, the more that happens. And the more you play with people you know. And not just from playing, but from talking to and getting to know and talking about ice cream or poetry or whatever, the more that happens. So, Haruna's going to take over now. You're next.
Oh. You're up to bat. So that the
3 to 5. Or you're next.
All right, okay, cool. So I'm going to talk about a different aspect, maybe a little more technical into what we have to encounter. I would like to mention 2 things. One, the freedom that we may encounter through limitations. So this is, I think, when it gets really cool. Haruna is going to talk about free improvisation, and that opens a big can of worms. I would like to talk about the one where we are actually limited by either form or style or a set number of bars in what we do and the possibilities. Here's where actually the creativity kicks in. Kind of like when you have a deadline and you just have to be done by a certain time. Somehow 2 hours before the deadline you go into like, okay, time to be done, you know? And so you engage into a million ideas that may come. And so that is kind of what this is about. So if you look at the handout on the last page, and sorry, some of the handouts have blank pages. That's because I had a printer issue and the printer was stapling things together, so it was much easier to just leave it. So on the last page, you see the tune, So What? And this is what we're going to try to play together and make some music and see the possibilities. So my portion of this presentation is the limitations. We're going to deal with 2. Well, this tune is divided into 2 parts, and we have certain options. The other aspect that I want to mention is the instrument that we have and the colors and possibilities that go with it. So, function and the way we communicate with others is also going to be a big part of this. For instance, if you play a bass part, that goes with the groove and that has a certain function of telling us where the harmony goes. Anything that goes above it, let's say alto flutes in our case, they delineate the harmony. Let's say you're playing concert flute or piccolo because that's higher, that's where the extension goes, so you have a larger range of possibilities melodically, rhythmically. With the bass, it's much easier. We're kind of like grooving and staying in one place and like, okay, hold in the fourth, you know, like the drums, right? So, and that's what we can also work on as we develop solos. So, are you familiar with this tune by Miles Davis? So What? Yeah? Does it ring a bell? It's gonna ring a bell in a little bit. Okay, good. If it doesn't. So, the limitations here are this. Let me explain the tune very quickly. So we have a first section that repeats, right? This is very fun music because this is one key only. This very first section is in concert D minor, concert D minor. And for those playing alto, this is in concert G minor. Sorry that the key signature doesn't reflect that, but it's because the whole time we're gonna play at natural 6 within the scale. Does that make sense? So if you're in G minor, we're gonna use E naturals. And if you're in D minor, we're gonna use B naturals. Just because this is designed that way, okay? Are we good? The second section, so after the repeat sign, that section goes half a step up. So we're gonna go into E flat minor, if you're in concert flute, so like a bass flute and contrabass. And if you're in alto flute, that goes into A flat minor. Also with a natural 6 within the scale. Are we good with that? Yeah? And that's it. That's the whole thing. So the beauty about this is that we have those tonal centers, and whatever happens within that is all fair game. Yeah? Anyone Cool. need the, So how about we try to play it and see how this goes? Yeah? Initially, we're just gonna get through. So if you're playing alto, just pick one of those notes that are written, and we're just gonna read it, okay? This is the tune that goes ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So one, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So one, da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah? And you have the melody. Do you get it? We can play together. Because the melody may not be on the page. We can play together.
Play the melody.
Yeah.
Oh, you and I just play?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I give you the changes, that way you can come up with it. So let's just read through it. So repeating the first time, and then moving on to the next part. Got it? Okay, so here we go. We start with the melody. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's where it goes. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, ready? So I count 2 bars, so 1, 2, 1, 2, something else. Yeah, okay, we got it. Now we know the tune. You recognize it now? Yeah, now, okay, this is good news for you. It comes from the best soul jazz CD of all times. The tune's called So What, and this is part of, oh my goodness, what is the name of that? The Miles Davis album? No, the name of the album.
Birth of the Cool? Was it that?
Yes, the Birds of Cool.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. So definitely one that you want to check out. So I think you know the tune, right? Do you know the tune? Oh no, so you were just copying the melody. Nice. Okay. So let's try something. The next thing would be to improvise the bass line. So now we know that we're in D minor at the beginning. And just staying within the D field, this is gonna work just fine. Now, if you look at the notes that you have written for the pra-da, that is gonna work the whole time. The whole time. So can we try something? This is gonna be a communal experience. I will try to hold the chord in terms of like a 1, 2, 3, and I'll play the D, 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 and I'm not even gonna walk the line. You play with those notes that you have written, come up with rhythms, and come up with here and there, and try that. You will sound good. In fact, everyone will sound good. Can we try it? So the notes are written. You just mess with those. So 1, this is when I'm gonna count off. That's gonna be the double bar with the start, with the start with ease. Got it? So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. All right. We got to repeat. Good. You see how we're like, okay, we're so shy. Okay, cool. It's gonna work. So whatever you try. With those notes, you'll be fine the whole time. D minor with a B natural, just try. It will sound amazing. And we'll move it forward. Ready? So one more time. 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, and. Repeat. world. Did this work? Did you feel comfy? It only takes 1 or 2 notes and you kind of start grooving. The whole thing is kind of like getting used to it, and getting brave, and getting braver. Yeah? Okay. So are we good with the D minor thing with B naturals? And then the E flat minor with C naturals? Yeah? Okay. How long do we have? How many time? We have a few? Okay.
The 4 minutes.
It's not.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, she's in charge.
Okay. So can we try one more time? Now, this time, if you don't want to take a solo, can you just please hold a beautiful tone with those notes? Any note of your choosing that you see written, that they will fit because they're chord tones. And if you're feeling braver, explore up, explore down. Okay? Let's go from the beginning. So, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Possibilities within a tonal center, but we also have the restriction. We have to change at some point. We have to be like counting and making sure that we go into the next tonality, and then we move back. So going back to the improvisation, this is only a matter of being comfortable and aware of where we are. That way we will have the possibilities to extend the limits a little bit. And that's what creates a good sensation. It may seem like it's all made up, but if there's structure to it, we tend to enjoy it. Like the beautiful thing about this film is not just how open it is, but like at some point it changes half a step, and when all things change at the same time, it is like, wow, this is going on, and it creates this very interesting energy. So, just as when we use vocabulary in our languages, this is part of it. Like we get familiar with the possibilities, the tonal possibilities, but then also with all the restrictions, and that's when kind of like the joy comes back into like, oh yeah, one more part of this, now I'm gonna go here. It starts to kind of pave the way for how music will go. Yeah? And as we're making this up completely, because of the situation that I'm in, that's why you just have to hold the D's and like kind of stay here and the other part. That's also, I think, how we can approach things. It depends. If there's no drummer, someone has to be the drummer. You know what I mean? But if you have plenty of low stuff, then you can definitely be up. If your pianist is playing a lot, maybe you don't play so much and just play lyrical things, just because we can appreciate that context. So, like, it tends to be probably a lot different, the possibilities that we get, depending on the instrument and the colors that we come up with. Any questions about this? Too simple? Easy? Okay, no questions. Awesome.
Oh, done?
Yeah?
Okay.
It's just a matter of practicing like anything else, and which direction you want to take your improv. That's all.
Okay, yeah, hi. Actually, these guys told you everything about the flute improvisation. So I would say, just like a few things, don't think. So please forget about the so what. Okay? Don't think, and please listen each other and feel, open your mind, and please collaborate with others. That's very important for the free improvisation. So, like jazz improv is you need to ride on the chord change, but free improv, no chords, no tonality, no time signature, no articulation, yeah, and no tempo actually. So you can keep your own tempo like stars, yeah. So I'd like to try special tuning with you. So usually the tuning note is A, but please pick any notes, even like a sharp or flat, or higher or lower, that's fine. Yeah, so let's do that. Pick one note, okay? Just play it. It's beautiful. Okay, so please play the same note, but please add the pianissimo. It's very soft. Let's do that. And please listen to each other and you're grinding with others. Keep. Okay, and please add the crescendo. Let's do crescendo. Staccato. That's nice. Fermata. Triplet. Woo! Lower. Trill. Higher. Yeah. We made it. So you can improvise because you can play flute and you know about the music. Yeah. So maybe we can invite someone to play with me.
You want someone to volunteer to come up and?
Yeah.
Anyone want to come up and be a
Yeah.
test subject?
Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah. And we need more like bandmate. YOLO. YOLO. You only live once. Yeah. Come on. Okay, just fun. And please make a space for the others, And you don't need to follow the tempo. Yeah, you can keep your tempo faster or slower. Okay. Any structure at all? Anything's fine. Okay. No structure. Yeah.
Free form.
Okay, so let's take just one note at the beginning. And let's be free. Okay, let's do it.
By the way, since we're approaching improvisation from different angles, do you have any questions whatsoever? Not necessarily what we presented, but like they may come from you. Coming back to the very first point about why are we here, like what seems interesting. When you're going to improvise, what is there anything that tickles you? Could it be like note choices, rhythm, ideas?
I think for me, when I'm improvising with my bands, I play with them rock and jazz.
Rock and jazz.
All sorts of stuff.
Uh-huh.
I get stuck in different patterns that I like to stay in,
Yes.
rather than a particular, just letting it flow. I hear the pattern and oh, that fits, so I stay within that pattern rather than trying to go out of it. So I think for me, that's the hard part, is getting out of a particular rhythmic pattern and even a melodic pattern. Huh?
You're afraid of hitting a wrong
No,
note.
No, guys. It's more of a rhythmic pattern. Like getting, like with so what? Underpinning that.
Okay.
I think that's the ideas part of what we're talking about. You get an idea and it works, and it's like hard work to think of a new idea.
Oh yes. So we're talking about getting like the same idea and it just kind of keeps going to your mind and you seem like to not be able to come up with new material.
Yeah.
I think there are two things to mention. If it's a good idea, keep it and harvest it. Just because if you change audiences, they become your idea. And it may get really cool ideas, it's completely okay. A solo doesn't have to always be fully improvised. Like there's some things that just work. But there's an exercise that may be healthy if you're trying to come up with new things. Is can you try to notate in your mind what you're doing? If it's a pattern that goes ta 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 ta, for instance, then we have this note right here. Well, to come up with something else, then sometimes when we visualize it, it's much easier to come up with something completely different. You have 4 notes at the beginning, well change it, put a half note. Put a rest, like shifts everything. So instead of pa para para para, you something like ta para. If it's linear, at least that's what I do when I try to play. Man, I'm sounding the same all night. So if I'm doing too many scale-looking things, sounding things, I change to improvise. If I'm being too melodic, even within the same solo, like okay, that's too much of that. Then I go into rhythm, So if you're going. Like okay, that works. There's too melodic. I mean, after 10 minutes, then everyone gets the idea, right? So in my brain. I try to intentionally come up with something, use the elements of music, like the most basic things, and try to come up with something that is not that you're feeling. You're analytically putting it there, like, okay, it's time to put this. Normally that helps.
I would add one thing to that. I played in a band with a trumpet player who just nailed the solo every time, absolutely perfect. And after a while, I realized he was playing the same thing every time, and that's why he was always so perfect. But I think at that point, he's not improvising anymore. There's a thing in the middle, and whatever makes people happy, but I would have been personally bored after a while. I mean, personally, not the audience. The audience was thrilled. But for me, in my mind, similar to what you said, that you find tricks or ways to push yourself out of your usual patterns, because it is safe and your body even physically gets in the habit of running certain lines. You just do it so naturally. And I would add, don't be afraid to take risks. in a certain sense, there are no wrong notes. That's why I thought maybe you were leading there. Victor Wooten, the bass player for Delafleck and the Plectons, says you're never more than one step away from the wrong note, and you can make it work. You play something you don't like, or you think it's wrong, repeat it. Then repeat it again, and then do a variation on it, and it becomes something great.
Would you do that?
Yeah, for free improv, I know, so we didn't talk, because obviously we didn't talk beforehand, we just played, but like, do you have a point of view on if you've never met somebody before and you're playing together, like, should you talk before you play? Should you get to know anything about the other person before you play, or?
Sometimes no,
No.
we know each other, but
Yeah, but I think
well,
it's the first time to play.
Yeah, we've
together.
never played together.
Yeah.
I think we can clarify something that comes up at least in gigs quite a bit, and is that it depends on the context. Sometimes at church they ask you to come up with things, and at that point it's so good if you ask the pianist, what are we gonna do? Because it's just being free in the middle of the audience when people are in community, that's just wild. So coming up with a roadmap, with a like it just depends. If you're in a conference where they tell you play for 30 minutes, who cares? But if you're in a place where they tell you, okay, we need music right before the choir comes in, and there's 30 people waiting for that entrance, you must have a plan of sorts. So yes, you can ask the other person, what do we do? So the answer could be, let's run this whole thing like the old song, and we come up with things, and the second time, that's when everybody comes in. You know, having a plan is actually a very good idea, just because also you'll know if the other people will have the same kind of mind frame. You know, sometimes you meet people that are like, yeah, let's just come up with something, and they're like, but why didn't you play 4 bars? You know, so it's just good to clarify. Will it be fully open and free? Like in Alice's case, in her concert, she can definitely tell her musicians, we're gonna open the intro, and just wait for me to cue you. They know, okay, we're gonna get these 4 bars, and we're just gonna loop them, and the leader will tell us, here we go. So yeah, this doesn't stop.
There is even a station because I'm doing free formation in New York, and always I have a new member. It's very, yeah, like sometimes I have like 2 drums, 2 bass players, percussion player, anything, and let's do something. And you know, we're playing like a 1 hour straight,
Yeah.
free for. Yeah, so that's yeah. So it's very dependent on the station, right? Yeah.
what we did, if you're curious, I've played with you before. I've never really played with you, though. We just talked and met. I've seen you play and everything. We just that was the extent of what we did when we played for a few minutes. But we could have had more time. We could have said we're going to move through the form, like you said, or when I do stuff like that, and when I've had groups that have lasted for a couple of years or whatever, we have what I call landing places. So if things get out of control, you know, like, you know, everyone talks about riffs. We will start a song, we have, you know, we know we're starting here. We don't necessarily know where we're going. But if things get out of control, we have a place we come back to. And then we move, then that might be the end of that concept. We try and move on to something that's different melodically or rhythmically, starts from a different place, hopefully goes to, you know.
And that's during a concert? Like, do you do differently if you're just jamming, or if you're in a concert, would you plan differently?
For me, I don't have a rehearsal for the free improvisation.
I would say for
It
yeah,
depends
you're
on
the
the style.
style or
It depends
whatever.
on the style where you're doing and the function. If it's a concert where you are going to average a piece for 6 minutes, you know, like within structure, then you may say, oh, we're going to have a solo section. And you decide what the solo section could be. It could be 4 bars of the tune, and then everyone knows that we're just going to hang in there for 6 minutes, and then someone would cue us out of that. So that's what it is. Or it could be said like, oh, we just play the whole tune over and over, and we play over the tune, and you plan maybe the ending. You're like, oh, at the end it just goes lower.
But my question on the solo section then, as a soloist, do you just like improv during the concert, or do you have it all planned out?
I mean, up to you, depending on the music and how you want to treat it.
And the style. I mean, if you're trying to sound in the style of Miles Davis during First of the Cool, or you're trying to sound in the country style that was mentioned, you know, you're not going to do free jazz, and you're probably not going to play hard pop over country, and you're probably not going to play country over, if that's what you're going for, a particular style. You can mash up the genres, of course, but studying a particular style, if that's your goal, that's not any different than studying, you know, a style of classical music in particular.
And by the way, remember when she mentioned the contra dance that you would repeat 16 times the song, that is one of the steps of the evolution of how jazz came to be. You play the song and people are dancing, and so the guy in front of the band, and so they play the song, right? And when you play the song, and play the song, and play the song, you start to change a little bit. You start to change a little bit. You start to make an ornament. You get so comfortable with the melody that you do. Maybe you started this note a little earlier because it sounds cool. Maybe you ended a little sooner. And those variations are the beginning of improvisation. You change a little bit, and maybe at some point it takes a life of its own. But it came up precisely with what she was saying. You jam to something, you get so familiar that it starts evolving into something else.
I think of jamming as a bunch of people get together informally and play. And, you know, it's like getting together and having a book club or anything else. I think of going and playing in front of people. This just in my own mind is you might jam, but it's a little more, it's like you're doing a thing and during the performance you jam as opposed to just that. Am I making it a good distinction, or am I, that's how my mind puts it.
Your description of a trumpet player who plays perfectly the same thing every time made me think of the opportunities we have playing a more classical style would be the cadenza,
Yes.
which is often just written out. So every performance is always like the same person playing, or different people playing the same written cadenza to a particular concerto. That would be the opportunity to do some
It would be, but
improvisation.
you know, they did used to be written out.
Yeah.
And there are still people who will, maybe they don't just improvise it on the spot, but they wrote their own version of the cadenza.
So do you, like, if there's something particularly that you really like about how you've done an improvisation performance, do you like record it, do you write it out so that you can reuse it and do something more with it? Or is it always different every time you step up and
You know, as mentioned before, I think we all have places we go to, and I might, you know, not even intentionally start a solo with something that I'm comfortable with, and then I realize I've been doing that and go, oh, next time I have to do something else. So intentionally, not usually for me. If, you know, going to maybe a big performance or something, or doing a recording, if you don't have the freedom of like an entire day of recording and you've got to nail something right away, you're probably going to go to some things that at least you thought about in your mind, at least before you got there. You know, I've got 30 seconds to do the best possible thing, and it's going out there, and it's going to be out there forever, you know, forever, whatever. But You know, I mean, everyone's different. I'm not sure mine was, for example, Karen, you would go and play whatever you felt like anywhere.
If I may share a very quick story about this. Well, first of all, like in the Baroque, cadenza would be like Mozart's dad used to say that the best cadenzas last within one breath. You have one breath to make your music and then come back and you're done. That's it. And you would make it up. As we evolved, then those things like just started to be written for safety. Then we just simply write them. And I mean, we could improvise it, but like it gets now like too pages of things. The early 1900s, they came out to be like way too complicated. But in a separate issue, I mean, like there's nothing wrong about working on something. If you know that it works, then it works. You know, you don't have to come up with something. I wanted to share a very quick story. I was in Nashville recording with a big band, and we get a chance to sight read the first time, and then we start tracking, hopefully twice, no more than that. So we sight read the part. There was a trombone solo, and on the second time, meaning the first one recorded, the first one tracked, the trombone solo was so spectacular. It was amazing. But the rest of the band, like, we didn't play the song quite as well. We were like, everyone, like, what a great solo, what a shame we have to redo this. Okay, next time, so this is the third time that we play, and now the whole song sounded solo. The trombone player played almost the same solo, because it worked. And it was such a fantastic thing because it helped the producers. You know, he already knew, and it takes a lot of maturity to say, you know, this works. No need to change what works. So here we go, here's the recipe. And it does. And I think all of us also develop, the more we do it, we develop certain tools that you know, like, okay, this is gonna work, and it gives you sort of safety. Because risks are good, but sometimes you need to make sure that the audience likes it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it depends on the situation. We had one other question, and we are already late. I wanted to make sure you got.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so a couple questions. One is, I was told like with jazz, think in numbers, not the notes, not like C to E F, but like 2 5 1.
Oh yeah, chord changes.
So is that what do you think? I mean, is that what you're supposed to do?
I don't know what's supposed to, but initially, yes, in order to understand where you are, like structurally. Yeah, I think so. I mean, within that, like when things are so concrete, not for you, not in freestyle. Freestyle, you're free, and the wackier the better.
Yeah.
But if you're supposed to be within certain areas,
So that's coming from a music theory point of view. I'm to quote a old commercial. I'm not a flute player. I only play one at conventions. My degrees are in composition. So you're talking structurally and about the form the music might take, and then that you're talking about the functions of the chords, and that would lead you to note leading and stuff like that, and then you would start thinking about, well, from the seventh, I might want to go to the one and the back, and that's like we're getting more complicated than we wanted to go to in this, and that's perfectly valid, and that's a great way to approach what I said before about playing in certain styles, if that's your goal. Yeah.
And then my other question is, when I improvise, I get lost in, sometimes I'm just like so into it that I get lost in the form, so do you have any, how to
Lost in the form?
Get lost in the form, like not counting and like, if you have 16 bars or 15 bars.
Oh, you get lost before you get to the end of the 60
yes.
mark?
I know the count actually. Yeah, I just hear the chords.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
I think, yeah, and to get good at it, a very good friend of mine advised this: don't play flute, play piano.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Practice
yeah.
playing rhythm parts.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
Okay,
Yeah.
guitar would work too.
Yeah, and if you only have your flute at your disposal, the way to decipher this thing, I mean, to be a little clinical and get into it, is that before coming up with your most amazing solo that has crazy rhythms all over the place, just hold the harmony and rhythm for the length of time. So you just go pa pa pa, like doing arpeggios, right? Eventually your brain kind of goes like, oh, I get it. And so that's how you internalize what's going on. That is the idea. I think that is the best way to get that thing into your bloodstream.
I just wanted to add, in the session that Alan Ryerson did on jazz solos, she said the process of improvisation is hearing what you're going to play and then playing it. So like playing, like sort of hearing in advance and then playing it. And so, you're not thinking so much, but you're hearing what
Yes.
you're going to do.
Yes.
So I thought, I can't comprehend this exactly. I certainly can't replicate it right now, but I thought that was all the kinds of things that you're talking about. That's exactly the same.
It does. I think it's different for everyone. Actually, I have a touch of synesthesia, which is, where your senses kind of mix a little, so it's not like strong like some people, but I kind of associate notes with colors and stuff. So I don't really think that way when I'm soloing. I kind of just feel what's coming. You talked about, feeling it and playing from the heart and not thinking. Alan's approach, yeah, but I don't know that any single approach works for everyone. But to put those two things together with what Daniel was talking about, we all saw Ali play last night, and wow, it was fantastic. And to put it together with the counting and maybe being lost when you're improvising, and maybe you're too much into your own head and you're just so focused on it. But did you notice how the band, you could hear them very clearly when they were coming to the end of the phrase? You knew. You didn't have to, it was so obvious that they were coming to either the next solo, or so clearly in an even more obvious way that Ali was going to come back and play the melody. You didn't even have to have your eyes open or see any cues. It was so obvious when you're playing with a group of musicians. And we were here. I was in the next room helping set up Matthias with his sound. You could hear them practicing next door. I think they had like 15 minutes, half-hour practice. She may have played with them before, but it's not like they spent weeks, months touring as a band or anything. That was a pickup band, so to speak. And they sounded like they were, playing together for decades. And that's all, just doing it over and over and listening and practicing, and those chord changes you're talking about and getting lost. Listen to other people playing it. Listen to the record. I'm surprised how many people with classical music, and I'm not talking about, probably you guys or pro players or anything, but I'm surprised how many times I've gone to have something played, and I've sent people links to the recordings and everything, and no one had listened to it. And I'm like, well, no, rehearsal is not for learning the music. You come prepared to rehearsal. Rehearsal is for learning to play together as a group. Yeah. There's another page in your handouts that I want to mention. Right, you put the page by Bob Kaplan in there about improvisation fosters. Yes, that's all in there. Bob is an old friend of mine from Arizona State University. He did the improv workshop with me, myself, and Haruna at the last NFA, and that's basically what he's done his whole life, is teach improvisation. He talks way more eloquently than myself about improvisation and language and how we improvise every day in virtually in everything we do. And he actually teaches improvisation to nurses and healthcare workers, we held emergency room workers and stuff like that. Every second of your day is an improvisation. When that buzzer rings and you have to run into a room, you have to improvise all the time. Improvisation is built into us. There's no reason why we can't all do it on the flute without having any worry or fear. It's just your desire to do it. That's all.
All right.
I hope you have